All right, so track 8, right-hand man. Why do you think, what is if I'm saying this is the crossing the threshold, and I think it is, what is the moment? Where is the threshold crossed? Yep.
He agrees.
Yeah, when he agrees to take on. Why do you think I'm identifying this as crossing the threshold, even though he's gotten into the war already, got an education?
Because this is his shot. That this is the fulfillment of his I want song.
Very good.
Is it his fulfillment or the start?
Well,
So this is a shot the completion, so to speak?
I guess it would be the start.
Because he's one of many as the army, but now he's being offering the position of right-hand man, a lot of influence.
Because I would say that the kind of the refusal of equality where he's continually saying, no, I'm gonna wait for when I can actually fight. I'm not gonna take a job as a secretary. I'm gonna wait until I can fight. And so this final acceptance of, maybe I can someday, but maybe I can help out now is kind of, it's him finally accepting this.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of when Lin-Manuel Miranda stated that this is about a guy who wrote his way out, this is where he changes his mindset and accepts that he's not going to change the world by fighting, he's going to change the world by writing. And he gets very, for all the excitement of the thing, what he's talking about is writing letters. But we've got I'll write to Congress and tell them we got to reply. And they make writing seem like the most exciting thing in the world right now. But, what he's accepted is becoming a paper pusher, in terms of doing this, but a paper pusher with a lot of influence and a lot of connection on the thing. Where else, what other threshold is being crossed in this song? Has Burr been an enemy yet?
Oh yeah, kind of George Washington kicking him out kind of like drives that wedge between them. Because Burr wanted what Hamilton was getting, but Washington didn't want to give it to Burr because it just didn't seem like he fit what Washington was looking for. That's why he called Hamilton in. It's like, hey, you're what I want. It's harder to live than it is to die. So yeah.
And that goes back to the irony, because he doesn't. What he says he wants is that he wants to be a soldier, and he turns down sort of being a secretary. But in fact, his only real skill that he is writing, right?
Well, he did, and that is true that he stole the British cannons, downtown. He had pulled off a few rather daring military operations.
But they were almost too daring, right?
Yeah, almost reckless. Did you have something?
Was there, were they implying that, or I don't know, implying, but was Burr's responses to Washington or his compliments, not compliments, as far as I admire how you keep firing at him from a distance, was there some kind of implied insult there?
I think there absolutely was an implied insult there, which doesn't warm Washington up even more. Does Hamilton anywhere in here tell Washington he's doing anything wrong? Is that possibly even a lesson for how to move in and gain in a position? Is Alexander Hamilton going to tell Washington what he's doing wrong later on?
Yeah.
Okay. A little lesson in diplomacy, buried in this song. And again, like I said, what I think he's really, what Lin-Manuel has really pulled off well in this song is all those elements. He's kind of aligning, getting this idea that even though we've been foreshadowed, we know Aaron Burr's going to kill, we haven't seen a thing, but we get that kind of ooh, this is the moment where it starts, and all these moments kind of happen in this song. Even in the middle of the song, for that cross that threshold, he doesn't spend a long time in denial on this. There's just a few moments where he says, I want to fight that right. And then there's a chorus where everybody but Hamilton first sings around him, I'm not throwing away my shot, giving you the sense that, he's the only one who's not realizing that this is a great shot before he accepts. It's not a long, but he does accomplish it. But then when he does accept, it's like, we've launched in. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. He's, really fully accepted. And it's also clear that this is going to be a turning point, at least the way this is being written, that this is a turning point for our army as well, right? Don't you get the feeling that he's setting this up that without Alexander Hamilton and Washington's side, we couldn't have won the war?
That's the implication.
Yeah. But I'm not saying it's the truth, but he's really, working up this idea of embedding Alexander Hamilton tight into these events. So this is really kind of a very masterful way of combining it all. We've got, in terms of repetition, you have gunned, outmanned, outnumbered, unplanned. I think it's really a simple way that makes you feel like we're in trouble in the middle of all this fast stuff. What about Washington? Have we managed to set him up as mentor? Because he is the mentor in the show. The main mentor.
When he's having that whole conversation with him, he's like, hey, you can serve your military better by being this paper pusher than you can be fighting and going on the front lines and dying. So if you work for me, I'll help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. And there's some things, as you're looking at stories, you're looking at yours. Part of the clues that you get is, remember how I did say when we were going through the characters quickly, or in the steps of the hero's journey, they said sometimes those two steps that might intertwine or change are the meeting with the mentor and the refusal of the call, or in this case, a lot of times they happen at the same time. The mentor is working through the hero with that refusal of the call.
I was just going to say that there's also switching from the original mentor, which was Burr, to Washington.
And like I say, the original mentor was more like a setup. That was more like a red herring, so to speak. See this guy offering advice, but he's not taking it. But it's in a position where we often meet somebody that we're going to take advice from, and sets up that rivalry. And more importantly, it sets up this idea that Burr feels betrayed more, because we saw that Burr saw Hamilton kind of looking up to him a little bit, right?
Or he was looking down.
Yes, either thing. Hamilton was looking up and he was looking down.
The same pattern with him in Washington, Burr in Washington, so
Yeah.
he was still had that.
No, you're right. And he is visibly taller in a significant way too, right?
No,
Oh,
not
where is
than
that?
Washington.
Oh, but is
And
it
not
Burr
much
bigger
more than
than
Miranda.
Hamilton?
Yeah,
Is it
then
Burr bigger than Hamilton?
Burr
Yeah.
might be.
Oh, I thought.
It's not a
I thought
huge
it was more
difference if it
visible.
is.
Okay.
They're definitely not bigger than Washington.
Okay. But Washington in real life is
I think
giant.
I think him and Hamilton, and as actors, are around a similar size. But still, this idea of looking down, and that's not really getting Burr what he wants. But we definitely see the tables turned, and through that pattern that we've set up, of Burr being almost a mentor to Hamilton, we now see it thrown aside, and the one thing too, I think it's mentioned, Lin-Manuel Miranda at the same time is giving Hamilton a much rosier view than a lot of historians recently, but it's also argued that Lin-Manuel Miranda also gives Aaron Burr a much better, fairer, position in the show. I mean, how many people here don't identify with Burr at all at this place? You don't identify with getting passed over for somebody else who's,
No, I see what you're saying.
I mean, it's really, even if you don't like his attitudes or if you see he's snobby, I think a lot of people can identify with this idea of, getting surpassed by the student, in a way. Or getting surpassed by somebody that you feel is less qualified. And even if you don't personally identify with it, I think we know people who have felt that way. We think so.
Everybody's experienced rejection.
Yeah. And just the sheer rejection of the thing, that we're already put in a position to start identifying with the shadow, which I think is part of what helps them make him so much of a foil, along the fact that they want the same things and are pursued after the same things. But he is I lost my English. He is drawn very sympathetically. And that's one thing, you know, that you may or may not want to look at in terms of who is your antagonist in your story. If you're dealing with an event, you might need to create one, or you might need to personify one in a movement. Then, do you want to make him sympathetic or not? You know, these are choices you can think about. In general, one thing I will say, just thinking for those who haven't done a lot of creative writing or fiction writing, so it's the same thing as acting. I urge you, if you find it easy, when you're faced with two choices, take the more interesting one. If both choices can work and you think one is more interesting, go with that. You know, a lot of people goes, oh, well, I wouldn't I'd just kind of back off and I wouldn't cause a fight over that or whatever. There could be a fight, but I wouldn't do that. Well, which is more interesting, the fight or the not-fight? And in various things, when you're looking and deciding on choices, you'll find that you get a lot further and create something more interesting if you just take the more interesting choice and see where that takes you.
I just want to mention also, boom, the ensemble keeps using the word boom over and over and over again. And so this is when we talked about how the war it's not easy to represent on stage, and that's not even the point. The war is represented on stage by the ensemble continually saying that over and over again. And so we see the wars taking place in that way. And maybe that's something that we could think about as writers, is the way that minor characters can sort of show the passage of time or show what's going on in the larger picture so that the major characters don't have to. So a lot of you I'm asking you to engage in this history, and you don't have to have your main characters necessarily be the ones who show us the time context.
Good point on that. And also I will add, for the experience of watching it in the theater itself, those booms are accompanied by the sound system for Hamilton in the theater is just absolutely incredible, including probably the most amount of sub speakers I have ever sounded. When you get to those booms, they rattle a deep sound of the subs, literally shakes your body, when you're doing it, which also really helps give that effect, in addition to just the movements that the dancers in the ensemble are doing with boom. So they don't have a war, but they do, at that moment, you do feel like you're getting hit by something, which is pretty cool. All right, so remember, please read